A new Australian film, a really dark comedy, is releasing in Australian cinemas on November 7th. And it's a film called Audrey. And it's my great pleasure to be speaking to the director of Audrey, Natalie Bailey. Natalie, welcome to Movie Metropolis.
Thank you, Peter.
Now, this is such an incredible in-your-face film, which I absolutely loved. Tell me about how you got involved with the film and Lou Sanz's script.
Yes, so I met Lou at a speed dating event, which was for writers and producers. So we hit it off. It's a marriage made in heaven.
Yeah.
So we went on the journey together. And originally there was another director attached, but she was busy in the States. So I luckily got on board and won the job of director, which was great because it's such a fantastic script. So yeah, that's our story, really.
That's fine. It is a fantastic script. How much did you work with Lou before you actually started shooting the film?
Well, we worked over probably about 6 or 7 years to get it to our screens now. So originally it was a different title and had some different elements in it, but the core was there. The core elements were there. It used to be called Ronnie and the Girls. Um, and yeah, so a few years of different drafts. Screen Australia came on board pretty early. So they, funded some drafts with us. So Lou and I would work together, the producer, Michael Ranwood, and also we had a script editor on board, Keith Thompson, who also helped us get it to the shape that it's in now. Lou always came with a fantastic premise, all the characters. I don't think really any characters have changed. A couple of maybe have, you know, gotten binned because there was no space for them. Um, and but she's always had fantastic rhythms. Her comic timing is fantastic.
Mm.
She creates great characters. So it was just building the story and making the story the strongest it could be, really.
Yes, yeah. Oh, what a great process. And I mean, this is such a wonderful dark comedy, and there are almost startling twists and turns along the way, which I found really interesting. Um, did you find that to get production behind you and all that sort of thing, you had to either tone it down or change it a little or make it more amenable to audiences?
There was always discussions, but no, we did do a you get feedback from the sales agents is one of the things, and so they were trying to work out what the balance was, and they really wanted to go strong with the comedy. Comedy is obviously my background, so that's not a problem. Um, the other thing is nudity. Would you believe there was even more nudity? So we did a test screening in Sydney. I didn't get to attend it. I was very unwell at the time and couldn't fly. But we did a test screening and I listened to it and could hear people's reactions, which was great. Um, but the feedback, everyone got to, fill in forms and that. The ultimate feedback that we took on board was there was just so much sex and nudity that people really even people who are quite liberal were just shocked by how much nudity there was. So we toned that down.
And we must mention the toys, or maybe not.
Yes.
But
No, you can. You can. And that is one of the things people were just so surprised to see the use of toys, I think. And it was, it's just exposing a whole range of sexuality, fathers, mothers, daughters that people just struggle with. And I think people are enjoying it now. It's an enjoyable thing to see that it's quite liberal. And then, but one of the other things we had to take into account was not getting an R rating. So we were recommended, to step back from a couple of things to make sure that we didn't fall into the R category, which would be death to a film.
yes, oh no, fair enough, fair enough. You wanted as broad an audience as possible because we don't make many dark comedies in Australia, and I think it's great to see
Mm.
this because it's a subgenre that perhaps needs to be developed a bit further.
Yeah, we don't. And I mean, we have in the past made things with darkness in them. Um, Muriel's Wedding comes to mind as
Yeah.
much as it's a, it's remembered as this great comedy. It has very dark elements,
Mm.
touching on depression and suicide, bullying, all these things, which are very dark. Um, so yes, we've got a great sense of humor. We've developed it probably from, the Brits, really, from our, not our origins, obviously, the First Nations were the origins, but we've developed that great sense of humor. We have a kinship with them. And I think it's something we're actually really good at, picking on
Yes.
ourselves, being
Yes.
dark and being able to look at ourselves and twist and turn it that way.
Exactly, exactly. No, no, that's a great comment. Now, this film is about two daughters, a rather odd mother and dad, and
Mm.
I'm interested in casting. First of all, Jackie Van Beek, who is so good. I've seen her in some other films. She is excellent. She really steals the show.
Mm, she does. That's a good way of saying it. She really does steal the show. Um, yeah, we should have had you on the tagline. The marketing. Yes. So Jackie, look, when she was suggested, it was such a great idea to get on board. She nails this comedy. She's really good at the black comedy as well, and she's not afraid to just push and go there. I think that's the important thing. She'll give you 150%. She's
Mm.
not scared of looking, like a bad person or stupid or nude. She's up for it. She did Nude Tuesday. So she's great, and she's a writer and director in her own right as well as an actress. And you'd think that would cause a problem with the director, directing a director, but no, she takes on the role of actor and steps back into it and really respects directors. So she is fantastic to work with. We had such a joy together. There's so much play.
Excellent to hear that. I can just imagine the deleted scenes and all that that would be on a DVD or something like that.
Yes, yes, there are a few. Yeah. A few babies that we had to, get rid of. I won't say kill. A few
No.
babies that we had to, take out just because length of time, and also just in, once you're putting that film together, we realized, oh, they worked against her journey in some way. So yeah, there's a few wonderful Jackie Van Beek scenes that hopefully we'll see the light one day.
Fair enough. And obviously, there are decisions you have to make to keep the film flowing, which is, and it flows
Yeah.
so well. Now, let's talk about the other characters, the husband and the two daughters,
Mm.
one of whom is in a wheelchair. Tell me about casting them.
Yes, so the two daughters, it took a long time to find Hannah Divney, who plays Nora. The role had always been written for someone with cerebral palsy. And as you can imagine, there's very few actors who have cerebral palsy in that right age group in particular, but actors across the board. And Hannah will speak of this herself. She didn't grow up really seeing herself on screen much. So it doesn't, if you're not seen on screen, if you're not seeing yourself on screen, then you're not motivated to go towards that profession. It feels like a dream, it feels like a reality that can't be reached. So Hannah had only just burst onto the scene, was about to burst onto the scene. We managed to get a preview tape of, not a tape, a link. I keep saying tape like it's the 90s. A preview link of Latecomers, which Hannah was in, and that was her first time acting, and we could see that she had the chops for it, and also just listening to her when she does, she's an advocate for disability and women's rights and among other things. And we could see that she had a really good sense of humor and good comic timing. So that was incredible to find Hannah. She's a bit, she's older than teenage, but yes, she plays teenage really well, and she's got a huge career ahead of her, which is fantastic. She's been a real standout for everyone. Josephine Blazier, we did a few auditions with young talent. Once again, it's always difficult to find the new talent breaking through that can play teenage roles. So she did an audition for us, and we really loved her. And then we called back 4 women to do a chemistry test with Jackie, because that was the most important chemistry to have. Uh, and they did some scenes together on Zoom. It was all everyone's in different places, and we all found out that we were kind of scared of her when we all talked afterwards. We were scared of Josephine, and she kind of frightened us in some way. And so from that, we decided she was the perfect Audrey.
That, and of course, it revolves around her, who's in a coma for a fair
Mhm.
bit. But
Yeah,
it's such a
absolutely.
yeah, yeah. No, she really plays that well, and the sort of yin and yang of her character going in and out of um, situations, which we won't spoil for people, which are
Yes.
so fascinating. And what about the husband? I don't think I've seen him before.
Jeremy Lindsay Taylor. No, you would have, but you probably don't realize. So it's a very different role from him for him. I believe he came from old Heartbreak High, original Heartbreak High.
Ah,
So he has been around on Australian TV screens for a very long time and a few films, but this has been really his biggest film. This has been his big breakout, being one of the leads, and he is fantastic. And I have to admit to you, I was pretty unaware of him as well. I'd been in England for a long time and missed a lot of his work on screen, on TV screens. And he just got that. He auditioned for us and blew us away. He had it, hands down. There was no one else that came near him. He's so beautiful at being a sad clown that then becomes quite sexy. You see this. He's such a great actor. He physically just changes. He just knows how to do it. He's incredible. So that's Jeremy. I hope he has this is his. It's interesting how sometimes you can be, in your 40s or whatever, and suddenly, like Jackie Weaver, suddenly your career can take off again.
yes, absolutely. It's no, he's so good. It's in fact the whole cast, including a cameo from Dylan Alcott. I found so interesting.
Cast are great. We were really lucky to have a great cast, and just uncover some amazing little gems like Gail Ballantyne, who's the drama teacher, Lucinda. You know, sh she's up in Queensland, and I don't know of her, and we find her, and she's the casting director just managed to Morafea Casting did the casting, and they just managed to uncover some really beautiful people that they
Yes.
knew about, but we didn't.
Excellent stuff. And tell me about locations. I gather it was all shot in Queensland.
Yes, it was all shot on the Gold Coast, a little bit in Brisbane. So you'll see the theatre at the end is La Boite Theatre, which used to be in a different place in Brisbane. I used to perform in La Boite when I was a lot younger, and went to the drama school up there. So it was fun to be back on home turf. It felt like that. Gold Coast, we shot around Robina area. Uh, but very interesting, because at the time we were trying to find locations was just post COVID, and everyone, if you remember, moved to the coastal towns and the regional towns, so there was very little left, very little stock left, so hard to find. We got to only see about 5 locations, so we had a small choice. But this one suited it well, because I wanted to do a lot of split framing between people in one area, one in the kitchen and the lounge room. So it
Yes,
worked well.
it did. It did. Was it a long shoot? Because I can imagine there would have been some scenes that you've had to reshoot sometimes.
Oh, no, no, it wasn't a very long shoot. We did, I think it was about 25 days. I don't believe, but besides car driving past, we didn't do any pickups. The only thing during the shoot we had to go back and do, because it was such a complex scene, was pretty much the opening, not the opening scene, but when the first time we see them all, the family all together in the kitchen. That's the only one, because they overlap each other and getting the energy right. That's the only thing we had to come back to shoot, because we ran out of time. But we did it all within the with allotted schedule.
Uh-huh.
Mm.
Okay, well done. And I can imagine the scene on the roof. That would have been a process to set up to make sure that everyone was safe.
Absolutely, absolutely. So yes, a lot of work goes on with that, as you can imagine, with stunt coordinators and grips and everyone going up and seeing, making sure that everything's ready, testing it out. Uh, so for that particular sequence, I think once you've got it, once everyone says it's safe and you've got the scaffolding in place and everything in place, you feel pretty good. Once they're harnessed, and there's nowhere they can go. So the actors were really confident with it. You can only have the tricky bit is as a director, you're having to communicate from a distance, either shouting or via someone who's nearby. So they're not the easiest things to shoot, but they're certainly, it's a lot of fun. A lot of fun
Okay.
to do.
Well, well done on that. It comes off really well, and I'm interested in the music, the songs, and the
Mm.
chapters, chapter titles.
Yes. So music-wise, we wanted to make it a very Australian soundtrack. So most of the music is Australian. Um, we got Alex Cameron on board as composer, as key composer. We knew him as a pop singer and indie pop, and he's fantastic. He's got such he's quite macabre and he's quite melancholy and funny. So it kind of we felt like it suited our tone really well. And so we work with him really closely. And, we got Barker on board, who's a First Nations artist, fantastic artist in Australia. And, it's also some classics. Who have we used? I can't even remember. We used the Vinyls, definitely. I think we used Big Pig, who were a 80s band. So we wanted to have something for everyone, that felt like it was something from the 90s or the 80s and something from now that's fresh music. So we tried to get a lot of support for fresh music, and we wanted to get Gold Coast music. The other thing, a little bit of an Easter egg, I suppose, is there is about 5 songs from my own band, which is The Curses, which is a co-pro really between Britain and London and here, because I used to live in London. So yeah, that was fun sneaking a few tracks in. It was mainly because we couldn't afford the big soundtrack. But we just yeah, so it's kind of a funny thing because I keep saying, well, no one's heard of our band, but the kids seem to really be into it at these parties. So yeah, that's the soundtrack and the chapters. That was something we came up with quite late actually in the run. So the chapters were I don't know what I kind of wanted to just look at like dramatic themes in a sense and twist them. So, you know, say things like I've got to remember what they are. Midsummer's Tale, is that what it is? And I've put fail and stuff like that. So everything has just a twist on it.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, there's some things that people think, oh, we've got incorrect spelling, but we've done it on purpose
Yeah.
just to play with it. Um, yeah, so that was something we just I thought about separating it out with the editor Katrina Barker, and um, we played around with, could we use Greek theatre? What could we use? And we just decided to use sort of classic theatre texts, a bit of Shakespeare and other pieces to play around with, just to um, key in with the seasons, because I always thought it would go across the season and help you tell the time of how long the girl was in the coma for, how long Audrey's in a coma for, and you can see the seasons of the lemon tree. You can see that it's thriving and dying. Uh, and even if you take a look at some of the paintings inside, which is a really clever thing from the art department, some of the paintings change seasons, which so they've got 3 versions of the paintings, that spring and winter and summer, which I think is quite lovely as well.
How clever. Boy, there's so much going on in this film that I probably need to take another look. So
Yeah.
Well done on that. Now, the other battle, of course, as always, is getting a distributor and getting the film out there in cinemas. Was
Mm.
that an easy process?
It's not my process, so thank God. The producers have to fight that. We had Rialto on board quite early, and we had sales agents Bankside in the UK on very early. So Rialto look after Australia and New Zealand. And in recent months, we've had Vertigo releasing on to do the UK US distribution. Um, and yes, we just keep building the cinema screens. Rialto has pushed really hard across Australia to get screens, and we're really. I've heard that, I don't know if it's true. These facts someone says to you, something like 80% of films don't make it to the cinema. So we feel really, really,
Mm.
really thrilled and chuffed that it's making it to the cinema. We've had Hoyts on board for quite a while, and Reading cinemas. It's been a really interesting one because it's such an indie film that those at Hoyts and Reading have picked it up. And we've also got Palace, which is a natural home for it, and Palace and Dendy, another natural home for it. So, and lots of indies across the country. So yeah, it seems to be a tricky thing to it's a
Mm.
slow build, but we've got there, and that's amazing. So for us, this weekend's really key to holding ground if we get people into the cinemas this weekend for its opening weekend.
Well, if anyone's looking for a very clever dark comedy, I think Audrey is a film to go and see in the cinemas, and a film like this with an audience would work really well.
Yeah, we've gone into a lot of we've obviously gone to a lot of festivals. We're in the US. It had its world premiere at South by Southwest in Austin, Texas, and they loved it. Full screening, sold out, and lots of great responses to it. MIF, Melbourne International Film Festival, had its Australian premiere. Once again, we had a cinema that was 500 seater or something like that, 500 something, and full, and just great responses to it. And then I've just come back from London Film Festival, where it also just went down really well, it sold out before it even made it to general audience. So it was a big fight for tickets, which was great. And the audiences, we had about a 350 seater there, sold out. That was loads of fun. So it's just great to see that across Western nations, English speaking nations, they're really loving it. So hopefully the cinemas, have the same effect on people. It's coming together, isn't it? It gives you
Mm.
permission to laugh. I think that's a really great thing. If you can laugh amongst a large audience, it's much more fun than being by yourself in your living room.
Fair enough. I agree. It's an audience-pleasing film. Um, Before we go, Natalie, I just wanted to ask you a couple of things. First of all, I noticed that you have quite a few directing credits in television, like the Thick of It and Unusual Suspects and Run and Bay of Fires and so on. You have quite a diverse range of television series. I think this is your debut feature film as a director. Um, what attracts you to particular projects?
The writer, always the writer and the script. So to for me, I really value the writer. Obviously they come up with a project. Without them, you've got nothing. Uh, so I'd worked a lot. I'd come up, through the ranks with French and Saunders and Armando Iannucci, and working with Moana Banks and Will Smith, who does Slow Horses. Um, and yeah, it really is the writer. I've got to like the production company as well, but the writer is the key for me. I'll move country for a writer. I don't mind shooting somewhere if I know there's a good writer on board. So that's what attracted me to Lou. I found it's obviously the industry is a lot smaller here. It's building and growing and growing, and so it's harder to find those connections with the writers, and yeah, to find Lou was a godsend, really.
Absolutely. It's all about writing. I think that's the basis of any good television series or film. It's
Mm.
about the script. Yeah. So
Well, I
Natalie,
like one with wit. With
with
wit,
wit.
somebody who's got
Yes.
a sense of wit. Yeah, if it can be a
Yeah.
drama, but as long as it's got wit in it, then I'm
Yep.
happy because people are witty. We don't all speak dryly. So anytime someone sends me a script and it's just dry, I'm like, eh, that's not people. People don't all talk like that, do they?
Ah, I like that naturalism. That's no, that's good. That's that comedy, and yeah, that's excellent. So Natalie, are you working on another project at the moment?
I've just finished uh, my director's cut on Down Cemetery Road, which is Emma Thompson, Ruth Wilson for Apple
Uh,
in the UK, and got a film. Won't release. I won't say what it is yet, but yeah. There's another film currently that I'm signed to that we're just doing early pre for, and hopefully that will start shooting early next year.
well, congratulations on all of that. It's great to be busy working on so many projects and having such a background as yours, which is terrific.
It's all
Uh,
right for a girl from Budrum, from a little town.
I like that. Um, we've been speaking to Natalie Bailey, who is the director of Audrey in cinemas across Australia from November 7th. Natalie, thank you so much for talking with me.
Thank you, Peter. Thank you so much for having me.
Pleasure. All the best. Bye bye.
Thank you. Bye.